Hi, welcome to the Freedom Fridays project with me, your host Pete Clark, the Whispers guy. Now this week, it's actually for me been all about, predominantly about music. Music, as I'm sure most of you who are listening, has a profound effect on us sometimes. It seems to resonate and it vibrates and it connects us with things beyond sometimes our conscious thought. It seems to reverberate with our body and our being. And I did a little bit of research, and there's dozens of articles about the connection between music and certainly sports performance. And then so this week, in an effort to try and be more mindful, it's been another busy, hectic, almost invisible week. I've been listening to more music, and one of the big differences is, rather than listening to music kind of on my headphones in the background as I'm thinking about work or designing a workshop or something, I've actually been taking some time to actually listen, and not necessarily music with lyric, just music, and not necessarily classical, just instrumental music, not lift music or elevator music necessarily, but just music that resonates. And some of the movie themes, there's a very famous chap called Hans Zimmer, who has written a lot of movie tracks. You might recognize some of the tracks from Inception or Interstellar or the Batman movies. And the way that he conducts and creates music, I've just found really very stimulating. It brings goosebumps, and so I found that to be really quite helpful when I'm feeling distracted, when I'm feeling unproductive throughout the week, when I've got, like many of you, I'm sure, quite a lot on my plate, of which I still haven't worked out what's the really important stuff. But what's been helping me is this diving in and immersing myself in music. Songs, music that seem to generate a feeling. And I don't mean the words create or I recollect a memory, which is obviously helpful too, but just music there's a beat or a tone or a journey, there's a story or a narrative or a feeling it takes you through. I remember first feeling that years ago when I listened to the soundtrack from Platoon, most of which I'm sure you're familiar. That music, as it builds up, and if you've seen the movie, there's a significant part of it, but it's something about it seems to connect and resonate with our molecules. That's as basic and as simplistic and perhaps stupid as I couldn't describe it. So I found that's been very helpful this week in terms of listening to and really listening to the music and not just having headphones on. The second thing just to share with you is I'm working with a number of different clients, and some of them are teams, some of them are individuals. And whether it's with clients or with friends or with family, but I wonder how often, and I'm considering this, that the circumstances I find myself 1 degree removed from, so it's not happening to me, it's not happening to my immediate family, but it's perhaps happening to another family that we're close to, or a friend, or a client is going through a difficult conversation or a difficult relationship. I wonder how often we use those examples and situations on the periphery of our life and find it instructive. I wonder if we could consciously learn from them a bit more. It might not be happening to you directly, so perhaps the what's it there to teach you question doesn't quite resonate because you're not totally feeling it. But even, a little bit detached, watching and reflecting on, how is this being handled? How would I handle it? What's it there to teach me about something else that, again, maybe is a whisper, maybe it's the first whisper, and you need many more whispers before you'll do something or change tact or something. But I wonder how, if we were to pay attention, not just to what's going on with us, but to perhaps what's going on with others, and use those lessons on the periphery, 1 degree removed, about how helpful that might be in terms of what's going on. And the third thing I'll share with you this week is a couple of questions that have really, really, what's the right word? They've really provoked me into digging a little bit deeper. And it might surprise you, the question, because I'm sure consciously most of us would answer yes. But when I've really thought about it, there's probably a little bit of a block and work to do. Now, the questions are simple in language, but really for me, perhaps it's where I've been quite profound in having me think about, particularly linked to this Freedom Fridays project, the whole concept of it, about using the Fridays to add years to my life, about the podcast, and whether I'm moving from I have to I choose to. And the couple of questions that I've been reflecting on are, am I willing to increase the amount of time every day that I feel good inside? Which is an obvious, well, of course. And yet I do wonder how often I might self-sabotage because I'm waxing and waning between the good and the average, and too much of a good thing is probably a story I've grown up with, and it might be manifesting in only a little bit of good is enough, and that's all I deserve, or I've got coming my way. And the deeper question from that was, am I willing to increase the amount of time that my whole life goes well? And I reflect on that, and I get to a point where I have a really great day. I had one 2 or 3 Fridays ago, actually. I think I may have mentioned it, and it really connected with me about just a number of things internally and externally had gone really well, and I was really quite blown away and taken by, wow, what a brilliant day that was. And then part of me, that kind of fear-driven part of me, kicks in and goes, cool, that's one day. Well, it's not going to happen tomorrow, is it? You can't have 2 days in a row. You can't have 3 days in a row. And so it's such a simple question. Am I willing to increase the amount of time that my whole life goes well? And of course, yes. But I wonder if I've really considered that deeply. Am I really willing for that to happen? Whether I, consciously deserve it or not. And again, extending on that, am I willing to feel good and have my life go well all the time? It's like all the time. And I know, there's a definitionary aspect of that. All the time is that every day, all day, you're on cloud 9. Well, you'll probably have no mates. But for me, it was more, well, to the degree I expect it. And is that enough? Of course it's enough, but I wonder if I'm willing to accept even more abundance into my life. And again, I haven't come to a conclusion. Obviously part of me, the ego part of me, wants to say, yes, of course, I want more and have more and be more. But it's interesting, one of the quotes that I've been provoked by recently was not necessarily to find the answer, but actually lean into the answer, whatever the answer might be. And I'm not jumping to conclusions, I'm not trying to make sense of this too quickly, but it's been something that's been floating around in my head over the last few days as I've gotten used to and more comfortable with the concept of Freedom Friday, gotten used to the tweak perhaps that it's about from I have to I choose to. And again, probably failing miserably in certain senses because I'm building lots of stuff into my Friday, which kind of defeats the purpose in some ways. But I'm comfortable with that. And then, serendipitously, I came across these questions, and they did make me stop in my tracks. And I wonder, have I really allowed myself to live a great life more often? More of the time, all of the time, all of the time. That just, even just saying it out loud, it feels such an uncomfortable thing to say beyond the conscious, apart from, we'd all like our lives to go well all the time. It's not been my experience that life happens like that. We were up and down, things happen, things get out of whack a little bit. Our kids, our family, our friends, our colleagues, our communities suffer a little bit, and I wonder if we've just become used to accepting that. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. And so, as I encourage others to, is to ponder the question, and is there another question to consider? So that's it for this week. First thing was all about music and the power of really listening to music. The second thing was the events that are happening on the periphery of your life that you're first or 1 degree removed from, how instructive they can be. And then finally, I'll leave you with that question: how much abundance are you willing to allow happen, or how much abundance are you willing to allow flow through your life? That's it for this week. I'll see you next week. Cheers.